Hello, everybody. Welcome into episode 600 of the Morgan You Know podcast, a conversation show about sports and sports entertainment. My name is Rod Morgan. I will serve as your host this evening. Hello. Thank you for joining us live. If you are right now on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, whatever platform you choose, we appreciate it. Maybe you're checking us out a little bit later because you are subscribed to the podcast. We appreciate you greatly. Maybe you have no idea who we are, but you're seeing this as a reel later. We appreciate you also. The man who makes all of those things possible to go out on our social media, the man who brought us to video, the man who saved this podcast from going by the wayside, my dear friend. I've known him since I was a third grader. His name is James Thomas Jamriska. Jimmy Jam, hello.
It is amazing to be here for episode 600, and the Cubs stink. So, hey, it's a great day overall.
I did happen to hear about that. As far away from baseball as I am, I did happen to hear about that. I think we might be touching on that in Journey to Rodtober. Our other partner here on the podcast, he's the old man. He's the voice of the fan. You never know what he's going to say, and he always brings the entertainment. That's why we love him. He's our guy, Chris King. Chris, hello.
What's up, fellas? When I heard it was 600, I couldn't believe it, but we've been doing this for a while now, fellas.
We certainly have. Not as long as you have been living, but we've been after it for a while. And the cold open question of the week is simply just this. How often, when you gentlemen are going through your everyday life, Jimmy, you're at the softball fields watching one of 14 different softball games. Chris, you are stopping off at an apartment that has a clogged up toilet and you got to do a little maintenance. How often are you guys telling people that you catch in the wild, hey, I host a podcast that comes on every week. We talk about sports. We talk about wrestling. We've had 600 episodes. We're actually pretty good. How often do you tell people in your real life to listen to the podcast? Gentlemen, while you think about it, I will start. I am guilty. I don't say it nearly enough. I don't. I mention it every weekend that I am on the radio. I close my radio show with saying, if you'd like to hear some more from me in the meantime, please check out my podcast, the Morgan You Know podcast. And if I'm talking to a stranger and wrestling comes up, I still won't tell that person that I host a wrestling themed podcast. It's ridiculous. I need to get better about telling people I host a podcast. I love hosting the podcast. I think for an amateur outfit, we do pretty good work, and that's thanks to James Thomas over there. Jimmy, how often do you tell people that you are the host of a podcast?
I don't really have to very often because my father-in-law, whenever we're out, tells everybody I host a podcast, and then I go into the whole thing, which is pretty cool. It is.
Nice.
He says, hey, he does this podcast every week, and then I kind of go into a little bit. I'm not one to, I'm kind of like you. I'm not one, hey, I host a podcast because, I'm in my 40s and I'm a white male. But we host a podcast and I'm in my 40s and I'm a white male. Don't really have to do it too often, but if things like that come up, I will. Listen, I still get texts from people I haven't talked to in forever about Danhausen, about wrestling related items. So people do know I do the podcast. And every now and then when I forget to switch accounts for Instagram or Facebook and I put a reel up on my actual Facebook, people are reminded as well.
I wondered if that ever happens to you. Andrew doesn't have to worry about that as often as us because he's not big on the social media streams, but we're trying to work on that to help get this podcast out. We'll see how that goes in the future. Chris, how often do you tell folks you try to stay off the internet? So I don't know that you're probably ever telling anybody.
Right. I will say, like, I'm not real boastful either, right? But whenever anybody happens to ask me, like, hey, like, what do you do for fun, blah, 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 I definitely bring up the podcast, right? Because this is a crap load of fun to do this every week with you guys. So I always bring it up then. When I was in North Carolina, I did a lot of guerrilla marketing. You sent me a whole bunch of stickers, and there are Morgan You Know stickers at about every drive-through in that town.
Nice.
I got some more that I'm starting to blanket Southern Indiana with, so that's kind of how I do mine.
You love to hear it. Those stickers that Chris mentioned, by the way, all of our fans out there, the Cleveland Crippler, Mark Allen, I'm not entirely sure that you have stickers, so hit us up with the private DM here sometime. Get us the address. We'll send some stickers off your way. Corey Nance, another one of our big fans out there. I'm not sure that he has stickers. I also promised Nance one of the handy-dandy Morgan You Know bracelets that I also promised to anybody who answered or asked us a question for the 600th episode. We'll get there at the end of the podcast. But Jimmy, what do you say we start with baseball? You got your Cubs hat on there. You mentioned the Cubs in the beginning. Let's do Journey to Rodtober.
All right, let's go. Bryce Harper did something on social media I have never thought of doing. I have never done. I've never seen anybody do. He put the toothpaste in his mouth to start and then brushed the teeth. Mind blown, Rod.
It was so wild because like so many things you see on Twitter or Instagram these days, you kind of catch wind of it as people have already caught wind of it, right? So like you get an aggregation of an aggregation, you know what I mean? So I'd already heard people going crazy about Bryce Harper's get ready with me routine, right? And I was like, what in the world could this possibly be? I watched the first few seconds of the video and I'm like, this is insane. Why did Bryce Harper film himself doing this? And then he grabs the toothpaste tube, takes the top off, puts it in his mouth as if it's some sort of a freeze pop and just bites off a whole bunch of it right there. And I was like, oh my God, what is he doing? Then he sticks the toothpaste in there as if it's completely normal, that he's done it thousands of times in his life. And Chris, I couldn't help but think of this. Didn't Bryce Harper sort of become a professional baseball player at like 14? So maybe the dude wasn't brought up with the best grooming habits in his early years.
Right, and he probably, okay, who knows how he was raised, right? None of us were there. And I started to think about it, though, like, okay, what could drive somebody to think that I'll put this on my teeth first and then start scrubbing? We do this a lot, every day. If you're dusting, you spray the pledge right on the wood and then you wipe it off. If you're spraying in your shower or on your toilet, you spray the cleaner on the surface and then you scrub it off. Same kind of situation, I think, here. You're putting the cleaner on the surface and then you're scrubbing it.
Oh my God.
That's
Jimmy,
the only thing I could
think
think of.
Chris. This is why we have Chris. Chris just zagged the Bryce Harper toothpaste video. He just zagged it, Jimmy, perfectly. I hadn't even thought about it that way. That's why he's our guy.
Are we all wrong? Is he right? He might be right.
He's got to be rocking one of those flavored toothpaste, right? Like that's the last thing I wanted to say about it. He's got to be rocking one of those flavored toothpaste, right? Like we're talking cinnamon rush or like, mint cool foam or something, right? Like he's not just
Aquafresh.
Yeah, he's not just doing baking soda there, is he?
Right. I will say though, there's a whole lot of times you're also putting the cleaner right on the sponge or your scrub pad and then scrubbing something. So it can go both ways. I have never heard of this, nor had ever thought about squeezing toothpaste directly into my mouth.
Hit us up in the comments. Cleaner on the rag or cleaner on the table? Let us know. Morgan, solving the tough stuff.
So then we go, okay, so quick side note here. My buddy Rob, who I worked with at Ohio State, his brother was Bryce Harper's handler when he was in the minor leagues. So he had to go everywhere with him. So maybe he learned it from him. Just ironically enough, we did get an email from Rob, a Facebook comment from Rob on our 600 episode. So we're going to throw that out there because it has to do with baseball.
Shout out, Rob.
He said, hey, Jim, longtime listener, first-time caller. I was hoping to better understand why you were awake at 2:37 a.m. on May 26th to pick up Gage Jump in fantasy baseball. I'll hang up and listen. That's a great question, Rob. Why was I awake at 2:37 a.m. Eastern time? Well, that is 1:37 Central time where I'm from. And that is what time we got home from our Memorial Day regional softball tournament game.
Whoa.
1:37 in the morning.
Did you say Memorial Day?
Yeah, Memorial Day, when people have softball tournaments.
Wow. U Sports is out of control, man. U Sports is out of control. Like, now, get me right here, people. I love my son, the Vanimal, and I mean this with all due respect. But thank God my kid's a nerd, so I don't have to deal with any of this U Sports nonsense.
So, a lot of rain in Kentucky the last couple of days. A lot of rain. So their game was supposed to start at 4 o'clock. Then it got moved to 7 o'clock. Then it got moved to 7:30. Then it got moved back to 2 o'clock. Then it got moved to 8:30. So we all get there at 8:30, right? They've been there for a little while. My wife and I get there, and we see two teams warming up in the field to start a game that aren't our team. That game did not start until 10:30 p.m. The last out, which unfortunately we also lost. We lost 3-1. The last out was made at 12:02 a.m. on the Tuesday after Memorial.
This is brutal. Now, like, was this, to quote the Big Lebowski here, was this a league game? Was this going to help determine round robin positioning?
No, so this is just the high school regional. So this was one and done, and then you move on afterwards of semi-state and all that stuff. So
so this was at least this was a tournament. Okay, this wasn't just some
this
like
was
rando
a tournament
game.
game.
All right,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, this was a tournament game that was very important to get done between the hours of 10:30 p.m. and 12:02 a.m. So Rob, that is why I was up and able to pick up somebody, because we had just gotten home and I had to make my daughter dinner because she hadn't had anything since 5 o'clock when they had to leave. So anyway.
All right, so fine. Other than fantasy baseball and
Yes.
Bryce Harper brushing his teeth, Jimmy, is there anything else that we should be talking about in the actual game of baseball?
Yeah, Cubs stink. Cubs are very unique. They've had 2 10-game winning streaks this year, and they're in the midst of a 10-game losing streak. They've went from 29-16 to 29-26. And Chris, I don't think they've led in multiple games in a row.
Well, you can go back 16 games and they've lost 14 of 16. All right. That's not good. Most of those games they have given up 5+ runs. There was a couple games they gave up 3 or 4, but everything else they've been giving up 5, 8, 9, 12 runs. All right. Their pitching is decimated right now. They are not hitting the ball. PCA is having an off couple of weeks. All right. But Jimmy, we're here to try to get Rod back into baseball. All right. And the Cubs losing is not going to get him back into baseball. We got to give him something that he's going to pay attention to. And we know what Rod loves, and that's the WWE. And what better way to get Rod back into baseball without some crossover? All right. Because we got a guy in Milwaukee, Uribe. All right.
I saw this. I did see this.
All right. Pitcher getting hyped, getting pumped, getting the strikeout, giving the X-Pac salute right to the batter. Love it. Love the energy. Of course, baseball is just going nuts now, and they hate him for it. What do you think, Rod?
Listen, you are so right in your wind up there that you give me a WWE crossover, you give me a DX throwback. Shout out to Sean Waltman. Is that Sean Waltman, Jimmy? Is that the real name of X-Pac?
Yep, you're right.
Look at me.
Yep,
see, I'm a wrestling podcaster. Shout out to him. But I got to admit, it's Juan Uribe, right? Little aggressive. Possibly little aggressive.
Juan was back in the day.
Juan was. See, again, I don't watch baseball. I know his last name's Uribe. It was aggressive. That's what I'll say. I'm not mad at it, but it was aggressive. I could probably understand being a little bit offended, right? It's kind of like that DraftKings commercial that plays incessantly during NBA playoffs where Louis Guzman's talking to Blake Griffin about not hitting a whole lot of 3-pointers in the playoffs. And then the guy goes, that was kind of offensive, right? And Blake goes, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I could see how somebody would say that to Mr. Uribe.
As a wrestling fan, it's kind of funny. You know, if I was in the other dugout, I'm like, all right, he got us. That's fine. But yeah, a lot of people don't know what that is. So gotta love it. Hey, Rod, guess what? We had our first no-hitter since September of 2024 by the Houston Astros, and by 3 people you will not ever know and care about. But we did have a no-hitter. That's kind of cool. And it shows how difficult that is. Because again, almost a year since the last one.
Were there any trash can lids or microphones involved in the no-hitter for the Astros?
I think those have been taken away, but I will tell you something else that happened. Jacob Misiorowski, pitcher for the Brewers. Jacob Misiorowski.
Like the name, don't like the Brewers.
Hits 100 miles per hour in his last start. 57 times during the game in a win against the Cardinals. He has had some of the most amazing stats, 103, 104 miles an hour. He is insane, Chris.
Pitching, there's a group of like 4 to 5 starting pitchers in the major leagues right now, all of whom are just insane. And I think Masiorowski is the first. He's got 100 strikeouts, Rod, in like 64 innings. All right, it's just crazy.
This guy's a starter. And he's throwing guys like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like 3 of the best pitchers are in the National League East. It seems. All right, you got one in Milwaukee. I guess you got one in Pittsburgh. St. Louis has a guy. Like it's just dreadful to be in the Central right now with these guys. And Masiorowski, I think, is the cream of the crop right now.
Listen, everybody hates it when podcasters do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. All right. I was at an Indianapolis Indians game back in the day when Aroldis Chapman was still part of the Louisville Bats. Okay. And my wife had a job where she was able to get a hold of good tickets for the Indians because they were a client. So I had scout seats for Indians v. Bats when Chapman's coming into town. Everybody knows Chapman's pitching. I see 6 to 7 major league scouts in front of me. Do you want to know why I know they're major league scouts? Because they had major league 3/4 zips on and they all had radar guns. Okay. So they were all there checking Chapman out, and that dude was hitting triple digits. And I was only a few rows back behind home plate, and it was insane. I mean, I can't imagine seeing that coming at you 57 times over 4 innings. Man, I hate the Brewers.
And then finally, Rod, the MLBPA sent its first proposal for a new contract to the MLB. So that means they're actually starting before the season ends. So the lockout next year might not happen right away. So we're talking. That's good.
Okay, so was the proposal very evil or very nice?
It was very evil and very nice. Thank you.
Okay.
It's very player-centric.
Of course it is. It came from the MLBPA, but you got to start there, and then the owners will say their proposal and it'll be owner-centric, and hopefully we'll meet somewhere in the middle because baseball has some momentum, and I, like you, Jimmy, like that we're tracking this story because I don't want to see him squander it.
Speaking of momentum, speaking of very evil, speaking of very nice, it's time for the fast break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Jimmy, Rod, and Chris are talking the Knicks. All right, guys, here's the situation. If the Knicks are playing the Thunder, are we all rooting for the Knicks? Are we really going to do that? We are Pacers fans. We are Bulls fans. And we're going to root for the Knicks? Because I am if they play the Thunder, Rod.
Listen, I'm going to shock both of you guys right now and tell you that I'm rooting for the Knicks if they play the Thunder or the Spurs. I am go New York, go New York, go. I want to see Timothy Chalamet. I want to see Ben Styler. I want to see Tracy Morgan. I want to see all of the guys over there on the sidelines for the Knicks. I want to see Tina Fey over there. I want to see Matthew Modine. I want to see all of the New York Knicks faithful over there. The Garden is the coolest place to watch a basketball game. I'm sorry. I couldn't imagine being there. I've never been there, but watching it on TV all of these years that I have, seeing Reggie do what he did in the Garden, seeing what Melo did in the Garden, seeing what Tyrese Halliburton has done in the Garden in the past, right? Seeing some of the things that have happened to my Celtics, good in the Garden, bad in the Garden with Jason Tatum. And Nick, Chris, for a team that you always want to holler at has to try to win. The Knicks have been that for the last years, right? They have just never been like we're throwing in the towel. They've always tried to compete. And I understand that you have a personal bias here, but you have to at least respect the hustle out of this New York squad.
Definitely, right? And listen, I was partly because of my Julius Randle obsession, right? That's why I was starting to be like positive towards the Knicks in the first place, right? And as a Pacers fan, I definitely hate them, but you're not wrong. If the Spurs get into the finals, I'm rooting for the Knicks 100% of the time. All right.
Hey.
If OKC gets into the finals, I believe in Danhausen, and I will not root against the Knicks until I am proven that they aren't indestructible, and then I'll probably start rooting for OKC because I really like what OKC has done, and it shows what a small market team can do in the NBA. So I like OKC.
I love that, his analysis of the Knicks started with, I believe in Danhausen. That's just so awesome that that's just part of this whole thing.
I just love how he's coming up everywhere. And people don't know who he is, and they have to explain it to him. And it's even hard to explain who Danhausen is in general because they're like, well, that sounds stupid. Yes, it is. And he's amazing. That's why. I can't see how he's not going to be at courtside for game one.
But they didn't pull the trigger already. They had the chance already, and they didn't do it.
Well, if you want to get into game one courtside right now, you can buy a ticket for $49,899. So the get in right now is $1,700. Oh, no, now it's $1,800. $1,828.
You know what's crazy? If you're somebody in New York of meager means, right? Of meager means, you have a better chance of catching a flight out of LaGuardia, landing in Oklahoma City, renting a hotel room, and getting a ticket to go to the Paycom Center than you ever do having a chance of getting in Madison Square Garden.
And it sucks, but you're right. That's why Philly had so many New York fans there, because it's just cheaper to go there and buy better tickets than it would be to go to the Garden. Now the Knicks really dismantled the Cavs, and one of the things that I said in our group chat is Atkinson's got to go. They've got to trade people. Atkinson's coming back. I cannot see. He had a bad week. a bad week in-person interviews. Well, we kind of won 2 of the games with the shooting. Well, and then James Harden, well, we were the better team. No, you weren't. And no, you didn't. You got killed and you didn't play right and you gave up in game 4, Rod.
Well, they were definitely a 1-2-3 Cancun team. And there we are again with the old pill alarm. Excellent.
Gotta take those pills, buddy.
I know, I'm old. I even did that before the show started, but forgot to turn my alarm off. Anyway, I tried to give the Cavs a little bit of benefit of the doubt, even after I saw them play terrible in the first 2 games. I said, guys, remember, this was a team we counted out versus Toronto, and they somehow managed to squeak it out in 7. And this was a team we counted out versus Detroit, and they somehow managed to squeak it out in 7. But I think the fact that they had to squeak out those 2 series in 7 games when they absolutely shouldn't have really cost them in this Knicks series. Because if you remember, they looked pretty darn good through 3 1/4 quarters in the first game. They were up by 20 in the 4th quarter of the first game, and they absolutely blew it. And it was just over and done with from the Cavs from there. And if this is a dangerous ball game for the Cavs to trade Mobley, you already made yourself older by bringing in James Harden, and then you're going to trade Mobley for somebody older. Like, you all of a sudden went from being a young, frisky team who maybe has a runway for 4 or 5 years if you make some moves to a team that has 2 years to try to win it before Donovan Mitchell flows town and James Harden and Giannis, I guess, get even older.
I just think, Rod, though, and Chris, you can answer this too. You always only have 1 year. You never know what's going to happen in the NBA. So if you have Harden, Giannis, yeah, they're older, but they're better than what you have now. And Mitchell, I think they try to go for it, try to do that trade, try to do something along those lines, Chris, because you always only have 1 or 2 years.
Well, I definitely think everyone would agree the Harden experiment didn't pay off. A person that's that big of a detriment on defense in the playoffs, especially on the Eastern Conference size, is unsustainable and not going to work. We also know if history repeats itself, we know what's going to happen. Happened with Donovan Mitchell, 2021, Utah Jazz. They get to the conference finals, and then they trade Donovan Mitchell. I mean, there's going to be a fall guy. They're going to do something. I don't think you're going to see – I just see a big red flag that Mitchell may get moved, and maybe it's to try to get Giannis, and may take them having to move Mitchell out to get Giannis in there. I don't know, but I see Mitchell moving on.
Wow, he zagged on us again, Jimmy, and said trade Mitchell and not Mobley. The old man's really giving us something here for episode 600.
Well, he's awake. That's great. He took his meds. Some people have to be reminded all the time, Rod. I don't see I see Mitchell coming back. I do. Because here's the thing. I think if they get rid of Mitchell, they're not going after Giannis. They're going to get rid of Mitchell. They're going to do something with Harden, sign and trade. I think they're going to go younger if they would get rid of Mitchell.
I think you could live in a world where Chris has got me thinking this, where you keep Mobley and Mobley is more of your guy, right? Harden is setting up Mobley. Mobley's your guy, and then you're bringing in somebody else, and you're shipping out Mitchell's huge contract to do it, because that's the other problem that the Cavs have right now. They're above the second apron, so they can't aggregate salaries. They're really locked in on even things that they can do. Hopefully, they're going to get James Harden to take a little bit less money over a 2-year contract to lessen their cap number a little bit, but it always gets tricky when James Harden and money gets involved. So it's going to be a sticky situation for Cleveland all off season, Jimmy. You're definitely not wrong about that.
Yeah, they are. It's really tough because Giannis makes $54 million. Mobley makes $46 million. So I don't know if we can do that. Mitchell makes 46 as well. So again, you're tough because Cleveland's the only team, like you said, was under the second apron. We need to talk about those Knicks though. Jalen Brunson's amazing. Landry Shamet apparently is the greatest basketball player that's ever lived. Cat hasn't even done anything major yet, but the Knicks are all healthy, and Rod, they have a shot to win it.
I think you got to talk about Mike Brown here, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I think you got to talk about Mike Brown here. Like, we're all Tibbs guys, you know what I mean? Like, we go back to, the ice when he was yelling at Noah and Dang and all the guys for the Bulls, right? And then we thought that maybe he was going to make something in Minnesota. And, you dig a gruff personality, and then you also dig making fun of Tibbs and grinding guys down to their bitter ends. But, you give a couple of guys off the bench a chance throughout the year, right? You foster a team of 8, 9, 10 guys that all play a little bit, right? You move the ball around a little bit more when you're playing offense, and you don't just have everybody stand in the corner and let Jalen Brunson pound the air out of it. And it turns out when the ball has energy and guys are passing up good shots to get great shots and playing their ass off on defense, you're awfully tough to beat. I mean, like, they're beating teams by double digits in the playoffs. We can talk all we want about Philadelphia is not great. It pains me to say Philadelphia is not great considering they beat my Celtics, but true is true. Maybe Philadelphia is not great. Cleveland doesn't seem like they were that great. Atlanta is the only team to beat them in the playoffs so far, and nobody would consider them a great team. So you could say the Knicks had an easy run of it at all, but they're a wagon. They're putting it to people. I give them a total chance in the finals. I really do.
Chris?
Yeah, they're deep, right? Which is one reason why I like OKC. All right, when you're getting 8, 9 guys off the bench in the conference finals, when you're beating teams by 30 points and your highest score has 19, you got 6 guys scoring double digits, that is a true recipe for success, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I want to talk about the Spurs. I'm sorry, I just want to go.
That's
to the
fine.
Spurs
We've given the Knicks plenty of flowers. We have plenty of time to talk about Cleveland's autopsy and put dirt on them in the offseason. We should definitely talk about the Spurs game because Wemby, we all love him, but Game 5 left us all a little wanting, didn't it, Jimmy? I mean, you know, we can talk about being tired. We can talk about he got banged around, but it left us wanting.
It did, and we've seen this already in the series where he was tired during Game 2. So I have a feeling that he is going to come back stronger than ever in Game 6. He is going to take 10 shots in the first quarter just to shove it down everyone's throat. He has that Michael Jordan or that Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality, whatever you want to say, where he is going to do the best he can to just destroy the Thunder in Game 6. And I think they're going to, and I think we're going 7, Chris.
I really think, and you can see what Oklahoma City's been trying to do, right? They have realized that in order for them to successfully win these games, they can't keep Wemby from having a good game. But if they can keep him from having a great or historical game, then they're really ready to win. Oklahoma City doesn't need SGA to have a perfect game for them to win, but San Antonio needs Wemby to have a perfect game for them to win, and that's going to be tough. And maybe he does come out strong in Game 6 and force a Game 7, but I don't see San Antonio winning 2 in a row.
Jimmy, how much confidence do you have in the guards of the Spurs right now that seem to be a little nicked up, right? Castle's pride is beat up because he keeps turning the ball over, even though he's been a little bit better recently. Fox is clearly hobbled, right? The young guy Harper clearly seems to be a bit hobbled. Like, somebody's going to have to come with Wemby, and how much confidence do you have in those guards?
Got to remember, Harper, this is the most games he's ever played in his life. Okay. Although those AAU games during the summer, they're pretty big. But anyway, but it is big. But the Fox thing does kill him because he doesn't turn the ball over. And he's playing with a high ankle sprain. He'd be out for 2-3 weeks during the regular season. He's playing out gritty, gutty. But they kind of have to play him because the Castle situation. And I think Castle's one of those guys that the coaches needs to go and take him by the face and say, you're doing too much. Calm down. It'll be okay. But is that going to really work?
I think that you could get some more run out of Carter Bryant as well. I liked a little bit of what he provided for the Spurs in the first quarter there. The guy can shoot. If Champagnie is off, right? Because Champagnie is totally like a faucet. Either he's on hot or he's on cold, and he's not giving you much else. So if Champagnie's missing, I like bringing Bryant in there. And Jimmy, I like that you pointed out the high ankle sprain because you catch Fox going north and south, he looks fine. But if he's got to decelerate, right, or he's got a hard pivot, or he's got to try to move laterally, that's where he has a little bit of trouble.
100%. And last time I checked, the Thunder are very good at doing all of that. So even if they don't have A.J. Mitchell and J-Dub, which right now, speaking about trading big people, J-Dub might be someone that goes away just because of the money situation and the is he going to play situation. Although if I'm anyone and Sam Presti says, hey, I've got a guy for you, I don't think I want him.
It didn't work out real well for Philadelphia, dumping Jared McCain, did it?
I got a question, though. Rod brought him up, right? Bryant came in for San Antonio in that first quarter, came in, played 5 minutes, scored 7 points. You're having an issue getting points in that game, especially from your bench. You're constantly getting outscored by OKC's bench. Why are you not giving Bryant more run when you see that he's already producing?
You give some of Keldon Johnson's minutes. He's having a tough time out there occasionally.
Right? I don't see why you can't make that kind of decision on the fly. Like, that's exactly what they needed in that first half.
I think they just need, that's something that they're all going to have to grow into. Because remember, again, I said it earlier, you've got a 1 or 2 year window every year. Last year, we thought the OKC Thunder were going to win the next 10 championships. And this year, they're in a dogfight, right? And even in the finals, they may not do it against the Knicks. So you've got to learn from this and then, do better next season. You got to coach better. You got to make sure you're spreading minutes out. Maybe with Wemby, unfortunately, you might have to give him a little bit more minutes during the season so he's ready for this.
Oh, speaking of Wemby real fast, I'm glad that you gave me one last chance here, Jimmy. I wanted to bring this up. NBC wanted so badly for the Spurs to turn that game around in the third quarter. Do you guys know the timeout I'm talking about where Wemby pulled the whole team around, right? And he was the one that was sitting there and he was like pointing at everybody and he was talking and you could see the team was trying to kind of guard around him so that like, we don't want everybody to see what Victor was talking, but then they left a little bit of a sliver so that the camera could see right in there that Victor was talking to everybody. And NBC so badly wanted the Spurs to go on a run and bring that game back, but it just did not happen. So I, like you, Jimmy, think this will go 7.
Chris, what do you think? 7 or the Thunder going to win it?
I think the Thunder are going to win it in 6.
Wow,
okay.
Chris is zagging on us all night.
I love it. Either way, like the Thunder Knicks series, there could be like a 79-76 game. That's going to be painful for everyone. Jalen Brunson is going to get manhandled by everybody on that team. Cat is not going to know what to do with Hartenstein.
People are going to think Larry Brown's on the sidelines coaching one of these teams with the scores they're going to put up in the finals.
Oh, it's going to be terrific. And I'm all for it. I want, like you said, I want the Knicks with their fan base, what they've done. It's just so cool to see that. You don't. Has
anybody checked on? Remember Bing Bong Guy from a few years back when the Knicks won the first game of the year and Bing Bong Guy was going crazy? Then all of his buddies were yelling, "Hey, KD, are you sad you didn't come to the Knicks?" Has anybody checked on Bing Bong Guy? Has he actually had a heart attack? Is he still with us? That guy was excited about a regular season win. What's he doing right now?
And with that, we're going to go to the Yeah We Know podcast portion of the segment. We've got wrestling, so much to go on right now. But Rod, we got to talk about our vision. Our vision is cursed. Danhausen needs to get on an uncursed division. Logan Paul is out now. They had to put the tag team titles on somebody else. What's going on?
Well, I thought that was kind of cool for a second. I was like, oh, all right. I always like a good tag team tournament. We know our guy Chris, his ears perked up at the idea of a tournament. But it seems as if Paul Heyman has it contractually written out that the Vision are the tag team champions. So I imagine
Demolition.
We're having some sort of angle here where Braun Breaker and Austin Theory are going to be tag team champions. We also seem to maybe have a Maxine Dupree getting involved with the Vision angle. That kind of came out of absolutely nowhere there at the end. I'll be interested to see what that's like, but okay, we're doing the thing with Austin Theory again, Jim. Like we're doing the Austin Theory thing again. Let's go. Let's strap in. You and I have been here before. I've been excited for this before. You can only push me off of a pier at the end of a lake so many times, Jim. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I don't care. It's so bad. Although Joe Henry needs to beat him down. You don't mess with Joe Henry, Chris.
Right. I'm starting to come around on your guys' boy, Joe Henry, a little bit. All right. Like he's fighting the right fight. Okay. I will say I think this Theory thing is just due to the circumstances that are outside of the WWE's control, right? You want Paul Heyman involved. You want the Vision, and you're trying to push Breaker, so you want to keep the Vision relevant. And if you have to use Theory to do that, I guess we have to use Theory to do that.
Well, you literally have to. You have no other choice unless we have, when the Street Profits break up, someone's going there, either Dawkins or Ford. Everyone's assuming it's Ford, but you just never know, do we? I will say, we can talk about our boy as well. We're just going to jump around here for a little bit because not much is going on. We do have Clash in Italy coming up, but it's like at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. No, it's on Sunday, I think. LA Knight, back on the mic. Love to see LA Knight there. Weird promo because, okay, he wants to win King of the Ring. Oh, there's a King of the Ring. Okay, great. And he wants to defeat Roman Reigns for that championship. Oh, so Roman Reigns is definitely going to be the champion. Just a lot of weird stuff with that, Chris.
You're not wrong, right? But
thank you.
It looks like we're going to get the rematch that I know I have wanted, and that's a real rematch between Roman and LA Knight for the World Championship world heavyweight this time around. And I am all for it. At least LA Knight's doing the right thing and laying the groundwork, calling the bloodline out for what they've always been. It's always been ganging up on people, always been 2-on-1, 3-on-1. He called Jimmy out right in the middle of the ring for it. It was beautiful. All right. So, yes, give me more of this. Give me LA Knight winning King of the Ring, going up against Roman and making stipulations to keep the rest of the bloodline out.
I don't know, Rod. If he does wrestle Roman Reigns, he's going to lose. I mean, I love our guy, but he's going to lose.
He's absolutely going to lose. Jacob Fatu is absolutely going to lose. And it's just, I don't know what to get excited for anymore, Jimmy. I really don't. I thought that I was going to be excited for Obafemi, and then we had to bring Brock Lesnar out of retirement to make sure to put Obafemi in check, which I guess I'm fine with, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be excited for. Corey Rhodes is wrestling with Gunther. Why am I excited about that? Braun Breaker's back, I guess, but what exactly is going on with Braun Breaker? Like, we're just, like you said, it's so weird. We just had Saturday night's main event. All right. We just had WrestleMania, and we have Clash in Italy this Sunday. I mean, we have too much. The thing was in Fort Wayne, Jimmy. I live 90 minutes from Fort Wayne. I've been to the Fort Wayne Coliseum many times. I've been to Showgirls 1 just down the street from the Coliseum many times. I could have made a nice twofer of it that evening, but I did not go because TKO is killing me. They're killing me. Too much money to even get in the door and just too much TV product right now. And then with the TV product, it's the same people all the time. They have a huge roster of people, and we see the same people all the time.
Shout out to Fort Wayne, by the way, for bringing it. That crowd was amazing on Saturday night's main event. We really need more of that. If Fort Wayne wants more PLEs or whatever Saturday night main event, they're going to get them now because of that. So congratulations. Speaking of Saturday night's main event, Rod, the Vision and the Street Profits main evented. Haven't seen that in a minute.
That was exciting, right? The match itself was a very, very good match. But listen, you get the Street Profits involved in a tag team match, it's going to be good, right? There's certain people that know how to wrestle a tag team match. The Usos, the Street Profits, the shout out to the Forgotten New Day, right? There's just certain people that know how to wrestle the tag team match, right? And you get that when you get the Street Profits in the ring. You're crazy to try to lead people down the road of believing that Montez and Dawkins are going to break up. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's not. Stop it. Stop telling the people to think that that's happening. It's not coming. Clip this all you want. You're never going to have to play me saying the Street Profits are never breaking up when they break up, because it's just not going to happen. We've had so many opportunities in the last 3 to 4 years to do this, and they haven't done it. They're not doing it now.
39, 33, 33 in the podcast. Okay. Yes, that will be a short, and that will go under those old takes exposed for sure. Before we get to Clash in Italy, I do want to shout out Raw real quick. Penta and Javon Evans. Javon Evans died, and then he just got up and was fine later. That was a really good matchup. And then the Jacob Fatu, Roman Reigns going back and forth. Can't touch him because it's tribal rules now, tribal combat. I thought that was fine. Listen, Raw was Raw, but I did want to shout out Javon Evans and Penta.
Yes, I got to go circle back real quick. All right, give us a little circle back to Roman and Fatu tribal combat. That little promo with Pierce where Roman's like, I didn't even know he knew about tribal combat. Like, how dumb is Roman?
So WrestleMania 2 years ago.
I mean, if I know about tribal combat, I'm for sure 100% sure that your family members know about tribal combat as well.
By the way, circling back again, how do the Cubs blow this? They're up 10-4 in the bottom of the ninth.
I'd say very easily, right? If they don't have any arms, it's pitching.
That's true.
Is usually the situation, right? And this is one of those situations where it'll get tied, and then the Cubs will have the chance to get a run to win it in the ninth, and then they'll lose it in extras, right? I mean, we all know that's the script, is it not?
It is, but go Cubs go. So Clash in Italy is coming up this weekend. We have 5 matches because that's what we have for every pay-per-view, except for the 2-day shows. We have the women's Intercontinental title match, Becky Lynch versus Sol Ruka. It is time to have Sol Ruka win a match. It's dumb that she's winning the championship in her first win, but she's got to win this match. She's got to hit a soul snatcher. That's a great soul snatcher. Sol Ruka beats Becky Lynch, Rod.
I'm fine with Sol Ruka beating Becky Lynch, but I want Jessica Carr to be the referee of Sol Ruka versus Becky Lynch. I want the finish to be clean because I don't want Sol Ruka to have some sort of a wimpy, weird finish. But I want Becky to get pissed at Jessica Carr, and I want Jessica Carr to finally stand up and push Becky down and say no more. Okay? We never see referees attack a wrestler. Jimmy, you're going to tell us that it's happened before because you're the historian around here. But I'm talking within the past couple of years, we haven't really seen a referee go after a wrestler and then the referee fight back. Jessica Carr is wrestling in a mask in WWE Evolve from time to time. You can see that her arms are jacked up. You can see her shoulders are there. It is clear Jessica Carr wants to wrestle. We have laid extensive groundwork to Jessica Carr and Becky Lynch not liking one another. Let's go. Okay. You've already had Becky and Saul do the back and forth and the back and forth. So there's no reason to go to another rematch after Clash in Italy. Pull the trigger on Becky v. Jessica Carr.
I love it. I love it. And I'll do you one better because we aren't a big fan of Becky being this heel MAGA type, right? I know it's not really MAGA, but the attitude.
No. Yeah. You're good.
Right?
You're good.
So let this ref do some shady crap and give it to Soul as a get back on Becky for all those times in the past. They get into it, and then you end up having Becky be able to get back to being a face, and this ref can get in as being a dirty ref. Maybe have a few more matches where she's a ref before she makes the complete turn into a wrestler. I just don't know. But I love anything that I haven't seen before, and this is something I haven't seen.
Now, you can't have a referee actually doing what your guy Drew McIntyre has screamed that referees have done to him and what Becky has screamed that referees have done to her. You can't actually have the referee do that. You have to have the referee do everything by the book, get pissed at heel Becky, and come out with heat as a possible babyface. Jimmy, am I wrong here?
We see it, though, when you have wrestlers as referees, you see that kind of dastardly behavior
of course,
all the time. And if this is a referee that's going to be a wrestler, why not have them start out by being dastardly?
Heel referees are tough because a heel referee, you can't ever come back from that. So we need to keep her on the straight and narrow. It didn't work at WCW. There was a heel referee for decades in New Japan. I don't know too much about it, but I know it's like Red Shoes, I believe is who it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, internet, but it just doesn't really work very well. I see what you're saying, Chris, but it does have to be something where Jessica Carr's had it. Maybe even Becky Lynch did something to her first, and then she got back and nailed her because we want her to be the face. Speaking of faces, I think the biggest face in the WWE right now may be Obafemi. And one of the biggest heels in, well, the court system might be Brock Lesnar. And they're going to have their rematch because Brock Lesnar is a retired wrestler, you see, and he'll be retired still, but wrestle against Obafemi. And I think Brock Lesnar is going to win, and I think they're going to do the rubber match as the main event of SummerSlam.
Did the government of Italy pay a substantial upfront fee for the? I mean, I'm sure they paid because everybody has to pay to get an event these days, but did they pay a huge fee to be able to say, we got to get Brock Lesnar? Was WWE worried about the gate in Italy? I'm not against this match. I guess I'm just kind of you're pulling the trigger on this in the first ever event in turn Italy and not saving it for SummerSlam?
I really thought that they were going to have this match on ESPN again, like the second match on ESPN. And then for the big SummerSlam match, then they put it behind the paywall and have people watch that. But they're not doing that. So I do think Lesnar's going to win this one and then set up that third one. Yeah, I don't know. I think it doesn't make much sense to me, Chris.
Lesnar's definitely winning, by the way.
Yeah. Right, Chris?
I really hope Oba just destroys him. I really do.
What sense does that make? Why bring Brock back if that's what's going to happen?
What makes sense? All right. Does any of this make sense for him to come back at all? No, it doesn't make sense to begin with. So
it kind of does. Like I said before, you got to check Oba a little bit. You can't let him run completely roughshod over everybody because they've decided they're not going to do that. So the only one that could check him is Brock. So I get that. But if you're bringing him back, you can't lose.
I let him run over anybody, but that's how I feel.
And then we have one of the matches on ESPN will be Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill for the Women's Championship. Hey, shout out to Meechin, by the way, too, from Saturday Night's Main Event. She did a great job in that match. But we have Rhea and Jade. This, Rod, I know you said, but this is just one of those, okay, we need the rematch. Let's get it taken care of. Let's get it over with, and let's move on to the next feud.
Here's the problem with Jade, okay? Jade is everything that you want on a professional wrestling card, okay? She cuts the picture. She has the stats that you can list on the back, all right? She can strike the poses, right? Her music in the storm is starting to grow on me, all of it. Her finisher looks cool, but she falls into the trap of, you suck, so we're going to make you a heel. And then when you suck, you can't even be a good heel. And that's where Jade Cargill is right now. I don't believe her bitchiness. I don't believe her evilness. She's not good enough in the ring, and it just all seems forced. And I understand why we're not giving up on Jade Cargill, but it's just nails on a chalkboard with every angle they try to take with this story.
Chris, he's not a fan.
I guess I'm not too surprised. Rod really needs someone that is great on the mic, and if not, at least great in the ring. And if they have issues in both places, Rod's not going to be a big fan and nor want to see them on TV a lot. And he's not wrong, all right? Because she does look like what you want in a wrestler. But there's always something lacking in each one of her matches, and it's not always apparent what it may be, but there's something. And I've always chalked it up to, like, I guess I don't really care whether she wins or loses, but it's something else. And I'm not sure. She's not moving the needle in the women's division for me.
It's stiff, right? It's like I talk about a lot, Chris. It's stiff. You know that Jade's like, oh, I got to bend over here. I got to turn here. I'm supposed to be there, right? She's got to get my back here. You know what I mean? It's just too stiff, right? There's just too many times where you see that Jade's moving because she knows where this is the next spot. You never feel
shuffling
like
to a spot.
Bingo. You never feel like Seth Rollins is shuffling to get to somewhere, right? If he's not where he needs to be, he's going to try his best to do a move to get him over there. And that's what separates a good wrestler from a bad wrestler.
Then we have the main event of the ESPN section, ESPN 2, I believe. Cody Rhodes, the champion, versus Gunther. And I think Gunther wins this one, and we start the reign of Gunther over the summer. Chris.
Cody Rhodes goes down?
Yeah, give me Gunther. Let Cody go on vacation and star in a couple more Naked Gun sequels and let us move on with some new storylines in the WWE.
You at least could have talked about his movie he's got coming out. The one that's coming up, Street Fighter, hasn't even hit theaters yet. You can at least talk about that one. You're telling people to go to Paramount Plus to check out the Naked Gun remake. Tell people to go to theaters, Chris. Support commerce.
I was really hoping they were going to make more of these Naked Gun remakes so he could be in more of those.
Listen, I'm with you. I thought it was hilarious.
Rod, who do you have, Gunther or Cody Rhodes?
I guess, right, Corey really was beat up. Like, I saw his appearance on First Take with Greenie there. I guess he really was beat up.
Are you doing that on purpose or not?
I just love when he calls him Corey Rhodes. I just really love it when he calls him Corey Rhodes. Because, like, there's something so funny about the guy who's supposed to be the face on every truck, right? The guy that every kid wants to buy the merchandise. The guy who calls himself QB1. The guy who yells out, I ain't hard to find, or I'm easy to find, but hard to beat, right? And then Danhausen can't even get his name right. I just think that's hilarious. But
I wasn't sure if you were doing the Phil thing again, but you did the Danhausen, which is that's acceptable.
Yeah, no, I know his name is Cody, and I've been on a journey with Cody. I understand that Cody kind of needs to live in the John Cena zone, right? Like I kind of do. I understand that, like, we'll have slight turns where Cody maybe, right, but like, wrestling means something to Cody. Being a babyface means something to him. You hear him say it in so many interviews. But then when he was on with Greenie, right, he had staples in the back of his head. His eye was all messed up. You know what I mean? Like, if Corey needs a little bit of time off over the summer, and we got to give Gunther the belt because Gunther is absolutely phenomenal, but we have nothing at all to do with him, then give him the belt. And he's going to have feuds with a lot of people sneaking up behind him in a button-up shirt, slapping the sleeper on him. Let's go.
Shout out to Crippler, who again agrees with Rod because he just loves Rod so much, and Rod is always right according to Crippler, no matter what.
What if maybe I'm just right? What if maybe I'm just right? Why does it have to be that Crippler loves me? Why does it always have to be that I'm right? Maybe I just am right because I am.
I think Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu are going to have just an amazing match. They had a great one last time at Backlash, and I think they're going to do it again. In this world where it's a little stale right now in the WWE, I would love to see Jacob Fatu win. But we've seen this 1,000 times where, oh, I win. Now you have to be my servant or whatever, and you've got to acknowledge me. And then eventually he's going to turn again and probably not win the championship again. But Roman Reigns is going to win.
No. You're wrong. They laid us. Right. No, I'm not always right. You just happen to be wrong now. They laid us the groundwork already. Okay. How many people have talked to Jacob about stop it? You're going to get fired. Quit it. You're going to get fired. Adam Pearce, how many times has he brought up, I'm going to fire Jacob Fatu? Okay. So Jacob Fatu is going to lose, and he is not going to acknowledge Roman Reigns, and he is going to be fired. We aren't going to see him for a little while. And then when he pops back up, people are going to lose their goddamn minds. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, they could, Chris.
I know that this match is going to be a fantastic watch. We know what these guys can do in the ring. We know they're both phenomenal. I am still going to come back here next week and tell you I didn't enjoy the match because Roman won. I will not be happy about it. I'm going to be rooting for Jacob. I am calling for Jacob to win. Let the part-timer Roman go back to doing his part-time stuff. We don't need the belt on him right now. We need the belt on Jacob. All gas, no brakes.
It's just so different than anything else. And this is, again, Clash in Italy as well. So the fact that we have 2 title changes already is dumb, but I don't see there being a third one. I think Reigns does hold on for this one.
Please, ladies and gentlemen of the 5th grade class, gather around for today's convocation as we welcome the WWE champion, the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu. All gas, no brakes with it. Come on, what are we talking about? What are we talking about here? That guy's going to walk in and represent the WWE as champion? You want that guy walking in?
When is
and
the
not
last
Roman
time
Reigns?
a WWE champion's been in a 5th grade class?
TKO will take anybody's money. Are you kidding me? Don't think that's not right around the corner.
John Cena.
Beverly Hills class in 5th grade. Yeah, you're right. That's going to do it for the Yeah We Know portion of the podcast. We've got some memories to go over now, don't we, Rod, for episode 600.
We sure do. We have been at this thing for a while. Like so many podcasts, we have seen some different iterations of this. And I thought it might be fun if we all sort of recounted how we remember all of our getting started in the podcast. And then all 3 of us can check each other here real quick as we spend the last few minutes celebrating here. And so I, of course, remember starting the podcast a little while before the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. I started the podcast with one of Kate's high school friends, a guy by the name of Brad Gibson. Shout out to Brad, one of the original producers of the show, one of the original creators that told me what an RSS feed was, explained to me that I needed to have one of those to have a podcast. He edited all of them for me before I had any idea of what all of it was. Brad and I decided that we weren't going to do the podcast together anymore because the podcast wasn't really his thing. It was my thing. He was just a producer. He wanted to grind away on audio. He wasn't ever on the podcast. I tried to get him to come on. He never wanted to come on. So ultimately we parted ways. I, at the time, had been listening to Cheap Heat with Peter Rosenberg and David Shoemaker. And I was like, oh, this wrestling podcast. I was like, Bill Simmons and The Ringer. They have a wrestling podcast. I'm like, okay. And so I started kind of checking in on some old stuff. Facebook is a great way to keep up with old friends. I say to Jimmy all the time, we've been friends since 3rd grade, but Jimmy and I will not lie to anyone here and say that there was a period in our lives where we had a bit of a falling out. He was living over in Ohio. I was living here in Indiana. We didn't really cross paths with each other. I contacted him on Facebook one day and said, hey, Jimmy, what do you think about doing a wrestling show for this little podcast thing that I got going? So, Jimmy, is that how you remember first being brought into the network?
Yeah, for sure. It was, I'm actually trying to see if I have the original text from you. I might. It was, we're going to do a show. I've got another guy who really likes wrestling. I'm kind of getting back into it. We just want to do just a quick check-in on this. And yeah, we did that. So it was pretty cool.
And then Mark, no, it's not Mark, Brett McNeil. Gosh, the Crippler. I had the Crippler on the brain here. Brett McNeil was that guy who did the show with you. And then Brett McNeil had something that came up in his life because, again, as we stress, none of us have been getting paid for any of this. We've actually been paying our own money to keep this thing going over the years. So Brett McNeil had something that he had to go take care of, didn't have time for the podcast anymore. COVID hit. And so I was big into WWE because for a while it was one of the only original programming on the block. So I said, all right, Jimmy, I'll do the wrestling show with you, right? And Chris, meanwhile, you had been a guest on numerous Morgan podcasts, right? We'd had you on for a couple of After Dark episodes. We'd had you on for that. And you and Roberts were kind of sort of doing a podcast that I kind of overtook, right? Is that how you remember your first involvement?
And it wasn't so much that you overtook it. What happened was, at least how I remember, is we started Balls and Brew for the sports leg of what you wanted the podcast network to be. And it was us three working together to get that going. It was us three at first, and then how I remember is you had then stepped back for a little while. It was just Roberts and I doing it for the most part. And that was kind of hit or miss when we could get it done, and then you kind of jump back in, and then, well, of course, you're Rod, so you're going to take it over when you jump back in.
That's true. It is the Morgan Podcasting Network. And then, Jimmy, when did you start kind of bringing us to do video podcasts? Because that's kind of when we decided that we should meld everything back together into one.
By the way, July 7th, 2017 is when we started talking about the... Yeah, you and I were friends on Facebook for a while, but we hadn't, just Facebook friends, whatever, back and forth. And then our first few texts were actually a lot of sadness that we don't need to bring up right now. But
yes,
but then we did that. And, I was a fan, actually, of the Morgan podcast. I enjoyed listening to it, and I look forward to it every couple of weeks, every month, kind of. It was in there. And then, so, started editing everything, and Audacity is something I used. And it was not easy editing on Audacity. Now, Riverside is glorious. Believe me.
Shout out to those guys.
Time on other things. But I mean, Audacity's good. It's a lot to get in there, especially with Chris's microphones to start things off, and William's microphones and William's voice modulation. But a couple years ago, we started getting on video. But this past year, really, with Riverside, with the shorts, we've had a short get 30,000 views, which for us is amazing. No money at all. Shout out to the people who think we make our living doing this. We are in the hole, people. But so in the past year, we've really grown. Actually, we've grown a lot. The podcast itself is hosted on Riverside now, and it's getting some okay views, but really our bread and butter is in the shorts and the on TikTok and things like that. And that's fine with me. It's fun. We want to get known. I don't know how known we want to get, but we do want to get known for sure. And hopefully one day get a little bit more views and maybe some monetary gain. Nothing major, but something.
Yeah, listen, we do not believe that someday we're going to all of a sudden have a show on ESPN, right? But we understand that there is a new world out there to where we might possibly be able to garner just enough of an audience that likes to hear from us and participates with us every once in a while. And we get just enough views that, YouTube or some of these other platforms are like, hey, you know what? We can run a couple of ads on these guys' things. These guys are pretty consistent. They come with the shorts. They come with an episode every week. They get a good, decent fan base. So that's my pitch here. For those of you that stuck around to listen to episode 600, shop small, right? We've all heard that so often when it comes to go to the mom and pop shop around the corner. Don't give more money to Walmart. Don't give more money to Lowe's, to Meijer. Try to go to the smaller places. Do the same thing with your podcast, folks. Sure, Barstool and ESPN and The Athletic, they've all got lots of podcasts out there talking to you about the NFL. Great. Do they really care about what a guy in the Midwest actually thinks about the NFL and the NBA? That's kind of what we try to do, right? We try to look at it the way that folks in the Midwest do who aren't necessarily biased by big-time sports programming. And we try to have a little bit of fun with other things, like television. We got a big TV episode coming up really, really soon that I'm excited. Jimmy and I crafted it in the lab, and we will be recording it here early in June, and it will be out for you a few days after that. Jimmy, we've combined wrestling with 90s sitcoms, haven't we?
We have the 90s sitcom Royal Rumble. Very, very simple. I'm going to say that with the first entry in our 90s sitcom Royal Rumble, we're going to have the King of Queens. So we'll talk about the King of Queens just a little bit. And then number 2 coming up is going to be dinosaurs.
Let's go.
Talk about dinosaurs a little bit. And now the panel has to decide which moves on. Will King of Queens move on? Will dinosaurs move on? Dinosaurs having one of the bleakest show endings in the history of television, where literally everybody on the planet dies.
Yeah.
Also an amazing story on that. So let's say dinosaurs wins that. Then we're going to have the third TV show coming up, and it might be, it's Seinfeld in the 3 spot.
This will be
Can
huge.
the show about nothing overtake dinosaurs?
Could a show about nothing outlast 86 other contestants coming up behind them?
Well, not 86,
It's
only
29.
20.
It's 29.
Yeah.
It's 20, but
It's 90 sitcoms, Chris, but we don't have 90 actual sitcoms in there, only 30, just like a Royal Rumble.
90s sitcoms, not 90. I love that though, Chris. Yes. So can they do it? You know, we have some random ones. Salute Your Shorts.
Let's
That's
go.
going to be on there. Okay.
Budnick.
Yes. Hey, dude. You got to have Hey Dude. Christine Taylor, big Knicks fan for sure.
Speaking of Nick's celebrity sideline attendees,
Roseanne.
John Goodman should have got an Academy Award nomination for The Big Lebowski.
Let me ask you this. If you just showed me, not Roseanne, but whatever that was before that Shorts show, I do not know what that is. Salute Your Shorts. Never heard of it.
Not
If
enough
you're going to have
Nickelodeon.
shows like that, I better see something like Herman's Head in this group.
I don't believe you're going to see Herman's Head, Chris.
You're not going to see Herman's Head. Salute Your Shorts. Okay, first of all, Salute Your Shorts is on Nickelodeon back in the 90s. So, I mean, you were already 63 during
That's
that.
true.
So you're not going to watch
if you think
Nickelodeon
we
during
had
the day.
cable
Now, Nick
where
at
I
Night with
lived,
Dobie Gillis or something like that, you might watch. Yes, the Dobie Gillis
But
shout
Chris,
out
here,
in your 2026.
Think of it this way, Chris. You're a WWE guy. You know who else is in the Royal Rumble every year? Tozawa. All right? Not everybody in the Royal Rumble can be a banger. All right?
And with that, you've been listening to episode 600 of the Morgan You Know podcast.
you know, one of my favorite dates that corresponds with this podcast is WrestleMania 2022. You guys had me watch it, got me back into wrestling, had me join on some after shows, and I've been here ever since. Haven't missed a week since that.
That is a fun show. And I want to say thank you all out there who are listening, who are watching, who are subscribing, who are telling their friends. We appreciate it. I want to thank the man to my left, Chris King. I want to thank the man to my right, Jimmy Jamriska. I appreciate everything that they do, the time they take away from their families. And we will be back next week for episode 601 because we ain't stopped.
You rock, Rod, Mr. Morgan You Know. And thank you to Mrs. Morgan You Know for letting the Mr. Morgan You Know be the Mr. Morgan You Know.
Ain't that the truth?
I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank my brothers right here. Guys, like, comment, and subscribe, please. Goodbye, Internet.
Danhausen, we did mention you during NBA.
Chris, you and I have only been in the same room one time in the 9
so
years we've
true.
done this. And it was
And that was in a restaurant.
it was at the Royal Rumble, wasn't it?
That's right. It was actually
It was at the
inside
Royal Rumble. So
inside the Hoosier Dome. It's not even the Hoosier Dome anymore.
Yes, it's the Hoosier Dome. No, it's the Hoosier Dome. I'm so glad that's recording still. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Awesome. Hey, listen, the podcast brings people together. You've been to Dax's house before.